Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Twitter, and you can find me at you can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effect that you've heard come from none other than a man in Brooklyn, one agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Right here, big.
Yes. And this being the Comic Book Chronicles, you can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network, that's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Yeah, you can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m., with the exception of tonight, obviously, for reasons we'll get into, at youtube.com/TheKliqNation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. There we go. I was about to say, why did not see us live? I was about to get scared there for a second. But folks, we are coming to you on a Friday night, if that wasn't clear. Obviously, if you're listening to this on the audio version, this doesn't matter because you'll be hearing us later either way. Because we had movie protocol last night for Thor, Love and Thunder, which we are about to get into spoiler light, very spoiler light free impressions of the movie, because I know it just came out today as if we were recording for most folks. So
We'll still ring the bell.
Oh, yes.
Because it's ultimately it's going to be, we can't help but provide like a little context when it comes to the discussion. So incoming spoilers for Thor, Love and Thunder in 3, 2, 1. All right. So overall thoughts. What did you think of the movie, Roddykat?
For the most part, I enjoyed it just like I enjoyed the last one. You know, it has Taika Waititi's trademark humor in all the way through. I do think right off the bat, I wish, as I've said with previous movies, they would not show so much in the trailers, because I can guarantee you that some of the things that showed up in the trailers, while still funny, would probably have landed a lot bigger if they weren't already shown.
Right. I mean, we try our best to. I mean, you can tell from our previous discussions, over the course of our the show, and even going back to when we just, when we start talking about getting tickets for this movie, we tend to avoid anything after the second trailer.
Yes.
Once the second trailer drops, it's turn it off. Swipe on the advertisement if it pops up on your phone, or on YouTube or whatever. You click past it. You do your best to avoid it. So I definitely understand that. I can tell you that I appreciated what they were trying to do. I think that my first impression is still the strongest one. I felt like this was more of a superhero movie than Ragnarok was. Because Ragnarok was so much more like the beginning of Thor's journey, where at this point Thor is in recovery.
Right.
He's literally in recovery after all of the events of Ragnarok and Infinity War, spanning 5 years into Endgame. And then now we're in the immediate aftermath of Endgame, and Thor has spent some time gallivanting around the galaxy as a guardian. Mm-hmm. That's not a real spoiler because that's where Endgame ended. Right. And ultimately, that's what this movie overall felt like to me, that it was much more of a superhero story. But there's definitely, there's definitely some rom-com elements in it. I can tell you that some of the sexual tension or the romantic tension was stronger here. And it's not a spoiler that Jane Foster's in this movie, was stronger in this movie than it was in either of the first two Thor movies between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it was the time away from each other. Maybe it was the fact that Jane was playing a different side of the character. You know, a little bit more confident, a little bit more brash, you know, and literally empowered. So I wonder if maybe that's where the chemistry came from.
I was going to also add that maybe it was the difference in direction of the movies, the prior movies, as opposed to this one. Also, that
you mean in terms of the story
and how the characters went? Because I feel like
right. So that's my point. That's my point. It's like the character's literally empowered.
So okay, so here
she's doing more.
Right. So hear me out. So I likened Jane, the Natalie Portman's Jane performance, not too far in the original Thor movie, I should point out, kind of like her portrayal of Padme in the prequels, in a way, and then
in all three.
No, not all three, but just in general, because we know Lucas did those, and there's rumors that he wasn't great on giving whole amounts of directing.
Right. I mean, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't as bad as You're Breaking My Heart.
Well, that is still him. So which is actually kind of funny because during one particular scene, I think you know what I'm talking about. I thought about that for like 5 seconds. I'm like, please don't let them go that way. I mean, obviously at that point it was already set, Right. But I was like, oh god, this was giving me flashbacks of that for some stupid reason. But regardless, like I said, I kind of liken her original her Thor 1 performance to kind of that, where I feel like the direction was. I don't know anything about the direction of that one. Like, it felt like there was more sparse, and they didn't really know. Like, they may not have known how to handle a character then.
Right.
And going into the Dark World, kind of going from that into that.
Right. And and part of that, I think, was everyone not really knowing how Jane and Thor would interact without Donald Blake being the intermediary.
Correct. Which
is how they were introduced to each other in the comics. So that changes some aspects of the character's relationship.
Right.
From what we were used to seeing. So, but anyway, I'm sorry to go off on that tangent.
No. But the point still is being that I feel like, and again, not knowing anything of those, of too much between those movies or not, and this one, and the benefit of time being the case, like there's only so much we can put on the actors for their portrayals of stuff, and how much direction they get, or especially in the early movies, such as those were. That's why I'm kind of liking it to that. But that being said, I agree with you on the confidence and the empowerment part of it, just to make a long story short, because it definitely seemed like it was a little bit more defined here than the past movies have done with her character. Now, granted, she also, spoiler alert, you've seen the trailers, she's a Thor in this one also, so, and she's also, well, actually, no, we'll leave that part out, but,
right.
But she's a Thor in this one, so that kind of lends itself to having a little bit more confidence built into it, and in the portrayal as that, than previously when she was not.
Right.
So, but anyway, what about you?
I like the movie overall. It wasn't as zany as Ragnarok, which is, I think, what everyone is comparing this to. Obviously, it's the same director, same writer. So, it just wasn't as off the wall as Ragnarok was. But I felt like it didn't have to be, because of the story, because of the more dramatic story they was trying to tell. Because if you're familiar with the source material, this is basically Jason Aaron's run on Thor, Thor, God of Thunder, and then Mighty Thor, and then Thor again after that. And ultimate, and then King Thor even, and we don't get to the King Thor stuff, but I think elements of that encroached a little bit on this movie, a little bit, possibly, and no spoilers here. That's just my my analysis of it. I think that the humor was still there. I don't know if it was necessarily toned down. I just don't think that there was as much of it, just because I felt like there was a bit more of a serious nature to some of the story. And also, there's some rom-com stuff in there that was funny, but it didn't feel like we got like the Stanley Barber scene, which was just insane, right? Because that got everybody like laughing, falling out of their chairs during Ragnarok, because it was just so zany. There's one particular scene early on that involves the Guardians that is a little bit like that, where it's just hysterically funny, but ultimately I don't think they had like that same level, because the villain Gore the God Butcher's not someone to trifle with. It's not it's not the same thing as the Games Master. It's not.
Right. Actually, there was a part of that, I shouldn't be saying this, and it's probably wrong for me to bring this up, but there was a part of his portrayal that obviously it's weird to know who is Christian Bale. He played Batman. I'm not saying that there was a lot of Batman-like quality to some of his portrayal, but let's face it, it's kind of hard not to see just a little bit of it in there. But and I wasn't looking for him to say "swear to me" or say anything like that. But but it also got me thinking about, like, dang, you remember when he did that rant that somebody caught on tape, and I don't think he was. I can't remember what movie he was thinking. I don't remember if he was filming at the time, but he went on this like big rant, this big epic rant, and I was like, part of that feels like he's gonna channel a little bit of that, but he didn't, but almost went there.
Listen, I was just hoping that he never had to yell out Rachel, Rachel. Like, goodness gracious, man.
So yeah, but overall. And going back to what you were saying about we're getting story for. I know we talked about this earlier right before the show. We seem like we might be getting seeds of not Thor-centric story in this. We don't know that for a fact, but there was a couple of lines that we had talked about earlier before the show that seemed like it might be pulling from I guess I can go into it because it doesn't matter unless you're keeping up with the comic books. You won't know about it. But a fairly recent Guardians of the Galaxy run that might be pulled up, and also from another storyline that we might be heading towards. At least in my theory, we might be heading towards. Well, I mean, excuse me, there's not the theory that we're heading towards. It's almost obvious that we were heading for that particular story, but something pulled from part of that might have been put here without going too far into that. And I know it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to do this because like there's so much you want to say right now, but the movie just came out.
Right. Listen, we all have to remember these are adaptations, right? All these MCU movies and TV shows are adaptations, so they're pulling from multiple generations. Especially for something like Thor, they're sometimes pulling from multiple generations of comic books.
Right.
Multiple generations of writers and artists have contributed to this character, and they're pulling, from different eras of writing and different storytelling and different storylines from different eras. So it's weird that they're introducing a character that in Marvel comics continuity has been around since the earliest days. Right.
Well, and we also know for a fact they're continuing to do that, though.
No, exactly. No, but what I was going to add, though, is the characterization that some people are critical of Thor now, where he's kind of like a bumbling oaf, right, is the characterization that they give a character that they're getting ready to introduce into the MCU now the comics.
We think.
Right, no, but that's the comic book characterization. Right. That's my point.
Right.
Whereas it seems like, based on who has been cast, Royo, that's the mildest spoiler. You have to be in the know to get that one. It seems like they're going to portray this version of the character as being overly, even deadly serious, and it's just a departure for the character. I
mean, we'll see. We will see. I mean, I feel like they could, but they also, we don't know how far they're going to take any characters they've introduced into this one, or
right.
So.
Right. All I have to say though is that the actor that they have cast is going to have to work out a lot, because Hemsworth was we've said this on the show before. Hemsworth was jacked for this movie. He was massive.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it in the trailer when Zeus snaps off all his clothes. That dude was jacked. He was like the cover of Muscle and Fitness right there.
Right. So here's a funny anecdote that I have in my viewing. I took my wife to go see this movie.
I just started laughing just on that one. Go ahead,
because you probably know where I'm going. She has not seen the trailer. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, she's seen. Well, we watched that Ragnarok like a couple of days ago, regardless. So it doesn't matter. So she hadn't seen the trailer, so she hadn't seen that part. So I heard her. She was like, "Whoa," when that happened. Which I kind of figured she was going to do anyway, because it's like she's very expressive like that. But I was like, I had to giggle because of that, because I knew she hadn't seen. As far as I know, she had not seen. Because
that particular scene in the trailer, right?
Right, because as far as I know, like she's notorious for skipping commercials when she can, because she usually tapes everything. So it would stand a reason to why she wouldn't have seen it. I don't know if she would have told me whether she did or not, because I forgot to ask her. But so that was a pretty interesting, and which is why I go back to say that if stuff like that wasn't in the trailer, it probably would have played a little bit. But now, granted, it still played in the audience that I was in,
right? Because it's not blurred out anymore. So now, if some people in the audience, and I don't even single out any particular gender or even orientation here. Just some people in the audience are looking specifically for the less blurred out or the non-blurred out version.
But now that you say that, it was like, yeah, did they not blur it still?
It was not blurred out.
I guess I wasn't paying attention because I knew that part was coming. I was like, okay.
Exactly. Which, but like if I recall seeing the even in the trailers and the on when it first came out, we talked about it. It was noticeably blurred.
Right.
So
yeah.
Very funny. But anyway, just to kind of wrap this little discussion up, I think that it's hard to discuss what we think is going to happen next for this group of characters without spoiling it. Right. So we'll I think cut it off there and say that it's going to be a topic for discussion coming up over the rest of Phase 4. What did you think of this movie overall in terms of the rest of Phase 4? I thought it was one of the stronger movies.
So going back to what I was going to say earlier, and you kind of hit up on it. This movie was about recovery, and that's kind of what Phase 4 has been.
Mm-hmm.
And in that respect, it's been great to see that journey with a bunch of characters, coming out of Infinity War, including Thor, because he had an arc that could have gone a couple of different ways, but I guess, but still kind of went down coming out of Infinity War, especially with what shape he was in
Endgame.
In Endgame, right. You kind of wonder if that part of his recovery was over, but it wasn't. So I for that part, I enjoyed that. As a movie, in itself, weirdly enough, it flicks kind of hard, and I'm not saying that in a good or bad way. Because I'm still kind of processing some stuff. Like, yeah, the humor seems toned down, but still was there enough to be like, well, you know, even with the serious tone of a lot of stuff that was in or one particular part of the movie that was there, I enjoyed it for all of that. But I don't know. There's still some part of it I'm still kind of processing that seems kind of, I don't know, like it feels kind of samey to the other movie, obviously, and to, like I said earlier, Guardians of the Galaxy, in a way that, and I could very well be wrong, and I probably am, but I feel like they kind of leaned into something, you know, just kind of keep going down that road, which could be good or bad, you know. So I'm still kind of feeling that they kind of leaned into something a little much.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, there's definitely something that they leaned into a bit much.
That too, yes. Yes,
I mean,
that too.
I will just leave it at that. I will leave it at that.
I mean, part of that was in the trailer anyway, so that's not necessarily a spoiler.
Right. So, but you know, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you know, it's an interesting that we've, you know, I guess that's kind of like the overarching theme that, you know, Phase 4 is a little bit about recovery from the trauma of Infinity War and Endgame together. And, you know, we're processing where the MCU goes from here. And, you know, that basically applies across the entirety of Phase 4. And what do we have left? We have the Black Panther 2 movie this year.
Mm-hmm. Which I forgot that was this year.
And that's even more recovery because of, you know, in the wake of Chadwick Boseman's untimely death.
Right.
That's even more about, you know, recovery post Endgame. So, you know, it's an interesting time. You know, I would say, you know, I had a lot of fun watching this. This is definitely up there with the fun I had watching No Way Home. Mm-hmm. You know, I had a lot more fun watching this than I had when I was watching Eternals. You know, I kind of enjoyed Black Widow. I think a lot of people poo-poo Black Widow, but I enjoyed Black Widow because I was absolutely enamored with Florence Pugh and her acting in that role.
Her acting, right.
Well, you know, there was a lot of, you know, but I think that, like, it's the acting that really made the character.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you.
You know, I mean, I get that too, you know, but I think it's, you know, it's the way that she kind of vocalized that role, like
she totally nailed it, Yelena. Yeah.
You know, like the way the spin that she put on that role made it like, oh, okay, I'm going to keep following this character. She's fun. Right. So, you know, and then, you know, think about all, you know, like what has come, you know, in Phase 4 since. It really is about recovery.
Right.
You know, and we'll see where you know, like what they're leading towards. We're going to start seeing more of it. You know, we've talked about this before, how Kevin Feige is saying you're going to start to see more and more about the direction they're going in as Phase 4 continues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we've getting shades of that in this movie if they're going in the direction that people are speculating and we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Still not sure about that one character, but I like my theory on it.
Right.
Weirdly enough. But yeah, there's. I'm still in for it, but
right. They've brought up the term incursions. It's a lot like when, you know, there were hints of Infinity Stones, right? We didn't see missions for Infinity Stones for a little while, and then we got hints of it, and then we're full on Infinity Gauntlet, right? So now we're getting incursions, and we're getting a little bit of multiverse of madness, you know. So I think you know, like you know, you don't have to be too in the know to figure this one out. But, you know, these are the seeds that are getting planted, I think.
Right. Now, how they handle it and to what end some of it is, that they're planting is going to be, especially with the stuff around the you know, the Ant-Man stuff.
Right.
And the big bad that's been seeded since then, or since Loki, I guess.
right?
Which has not come up in this. You know, who's to say, you know, where they're going to blend it out? Well, we can speculate on how they're going to blend that together because it has been speculated by now. So, yeah, like I said, but there's some things that we don't directly know, and I kind of like that part. You know, the speculation's fun, you know, and keeping it fun, because I know there are people that take their own speculations way too seriously,
right?
And to the point of getting mad at things when it doesn't happen the way when it does happen the way they thought.
Right, like you're not the Amazing Kreskin. You ain't getting paid to predict this stuff.
Right. Also, it's the MCU. Like they're taking bits and pieces, like you said, and like we said, you know, just like Star Wars. Also, they're taking bits and pieces of stuff that they want to. They're not going beat for beat with,
right,
you know, with the comics,
right,
or anything.
From stories, right, from stories that span generations.
Right.
You know, like you know, they're multiple years and multiple issues apart.
Right.
You know, like little bits and pieces here and there. And it's great that if you recognize it, it's an Easter egg. You know, and it's great if you recognize a story beat. It's like, oh, okay, so maybe this is where they're going with you know, with this is the direction that they're going in.
Right.
So, but in any event, I think we can move on now to episode 5 of Ms. Marvel, the penultimate episode of this miniseries.
Indeed. Let me get rid of this image real quick. Bing. Because just in case somebody came across the video version of this and wasn't sure what we were talking about, I put an image of the Thor and Love and Thunder poster up, just in case I'm like, hey, this is what we're talking about.
Right.
So they can dip out if you need to. And still now, if you haven't seen Ms. Marvel. So, yeah, Ms. Marvel episode 5, as Edge70 said, is the penultimate episode.
Right. Do you have the title of the episode?
Oh.
I'll ring the spoiler bell while you get it. All right, spoilers again for Ms. Marvel episode 5, incoming in 3, 2, 1.
Google Foo. Hey, my Google Foo is great. It is called Time and Again.
There you go. Thank you.
Which now I'm kind of upset about because it's a book I wish I had finished reading before this. But anyway, so yeah, Time and Again is the episode title, and this, as we knew it was going to be doing, we are back in the days of the 1940s during partition era. I guess it's before, actually, leading up to, now that I think about it, partition era India. And without going into too much, it doesn't, Kamala is not a focus of this episode. I think people have one speculated and or have seen by now who is the crux of this episode, that being her great grandmother Aisha, and cue the another bad creation right there. For the
no. That's a good one.
Because I forgot to pull it.
That is a good one. Oh no! Wait, I need a. Here we go.
I understood that reference.
So I can't hear the name Aisha and not hear that song for some stupid reason. So that's that is a fatal flaw of my memory.
Shout out to @TimDog98.
Wait, what do you mean?
It's okay. We'll talk. We'll talk about it after.
I was about to say, wait, did he write something about that also? But yeah, we'll talk about that later. So yeah, anyway, the short strokes is looks like we don't have to take too much longer because it's still a fresh show. This is pretty much a story leading from A to B, from Aisha to what we vaguely knew about her to flesh out what we end up knowing about her going into the events that led up to, well, not even the events that led up to, actually, yeah, no, I would say the events that led up to the end of the last episode. I'll say that much.
Right. And there's a lot of family stuff here.
Yes.
There's a lot of, intergenerational relationship building and, figuring out how puzzle pieces fit together. Mm-hmm. In terms of the family history, in terms of Kamala's mother's side. And I felt like that was the strong part of this episode. I felt like the hardest part of digesting this episode and figuring out what was going on is that there's still so many unanswered questions in my mind going into the final episode, and there's a lot. It seems like there's a lot of ground for them to cover in the final episode. That was my takeaway. What about you?
I absolutely agree with you. I'm not well, not a lot, but there's a good bit. Like, there are things that are still kind of up in the air, and the end of this episode did not do anything. Well, at first, when you first looking at it, it felt like, well, wait, that can't just be it for this particular thing here. But being that there is one more episode left, that it is and it isn't, because it's gonna manifest itself in another way. Because it was like, well, seemed like that's got taken care of, but not really. And we're talking about something that happens that at the very end of the episode, with a couple of characters, and a couple of characters that we actually didn't see. So I assume there's that was laid out there like that for a reason. But yes, there are definitely some unanswered questions that I hope they're going to answer in the next one. Like, I don't know how long this next episode is going to be, but I'm hoping the length is going to justify what they need to, what we feel like they need to take care of. Like, maybe
right, what they need to accomplish, right?
Right, and maybe there's going to be parts of that's going to be left undone for a reason because of going into the Marvels. Like, I feel like this is something that they would do. Like, being that that second Captain Marvel movie is called The Marvels, they might sprinkle in some stuff with the other characters that's not Captain Marvel,
right,
and tie it all together and answer some questions. Maybe that's the case here. We don't know. So, otherwise that, I enjoyed it. Like, I know I saw somebody who was like, we should there should be another 5 episodes of just Aisha and Hassan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, yeah, I could see that, because it was the story that didn't necessarily need to be fleshed out a little bit more, but could as a side story, just for people who like that kind of, not necessarily people who like period dramas, I guess, and I guess in relation love stories, could be like the I can safely say the lady that played Aisha played her part quite well. Hassan also, they both played their parts quite well, and it was enjoyed. They had great chemistry, and like, it kind of felt like it all worked.
Yeah, it was just it's getting back to something I mentioned previously about this show, and it all relates back to the change in Kamala's power set and the nature of her powers, is that, I don't think either of us, and I've said this before, I don't think either of us were really prepared for the trip to Pakistan. In this 6-issue limited series, 6-episode limited series.
I do it all the time. Don't feel bad. I slightly disagree, and only because of the fact that Moon Knight kind of did it already. So I felt like, being that they had already kind of hinted at something like that, I knew there was a possibility.
Right. But considering the change in her power set and the nature of her powers, it was almost like it was a given.
Right.
I think. And so we're not surprised. And so, we're like, okay, we get it. This is what's going on. But to devote basically like almost the entirety of this episode to establishing like this familial, link, I don't know if it's as easy for the casuals to keep up with. That's sort of the anecdotal evidence I've gotten so far.
Okay.
From people who I've spoken to, like, I had a little trouble getting into it, or a little trouble keeping up with it.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I sort of understand. Yeah. I sort of sympathize, because even as someone who talks about this stuff, not for a living, but definitely as like a strong hobby, right? as a strong, as a regular thing. Even I was kind of like, huh, so I wonder why we're going this deep into it and we're not getting that much of a development of Kamala's current time, and what ends up happening to the supposed antagonists. They're given like really short shrift in this episode, and they're just sort of dealt with. I'm like, whoa, that was wild.
Well, in a way, without giving something away. Well, not giving away.
Right, I'm not giving it away exactly, right. But my point is, I'm just like, wow, that was kind of sudden.
It seems that way. And I say it seems that way on one part because yes, we did definitely see something happen to somebody. We saw something happen to a couple of people.
Well, some buddies, some bodies. Right. It happened to some bodies. I was just like, seriously, the black one had to go first? Really?
You just don't know. I thought that exact same thing. That was the first thing I thought. You hit it right on the head. I was like, really? So
I was like, come on.
So this is kind of a slight spoiler for folks, so I apologize about this. We only see something happen to a couple of people, and I think one of them is kind of still in play because of what they did before whatever happened to them. But you notice there was 4 of them. We only see something happen to 2 of them.
Right.
So those other 2 probably still in play, plus the one that we thought might have gotten dealt with is probably still around in a certain form.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, I thought that exact thing. Now, that being said, on all that, just to kind of wrap up the discussion, so I didn't have a problem with them going back as deep as because it still kind of deepens the familiar roots and kind of puts us into place. Whether it was necessary to do that or whether they could have done something in the present for that, who's to say what or not. I do know Sana Amanat did say, and there's an article in the news about they kind of made some choices. They took some chances with this episode. Mm-hmm. So she was, I don't know what word it might be this word to use for it, but she was kind of wondering how people was going to react to how this episode kind of played out. So there is that. But that being said, I feel like weirdly enough, it was kind of rushed, especially at the end.
Oh no, that's kind of what I was getting at with the suddenness of a lot of things that were happening, mm-hmm. And the episode does in fact end on a cliffhanger in Jersey City, mm-hmm. And it all seemed very sudden and very kind of like, huh?
Right.
That's it.
Right.
We're stopping there. Right. My exact reactions.
And for whatever reason, they're using 6 episodes for the majority of the Marvel stuff now, as opposed to earlier when Loki and WandaVision got, 10, 11, well, I guess.
Wasn't
more
it
than
8?
6? Yeah. They got more than 6, basically. Like even What If, they got 9, which was supposed to be 10, then they cut 1. Like, I don't know. I feel like they could have, made another episode and probably broke those 2 apart and maybe added some stuff. I don't know. So that aside, it was still a good episode. So we're not poo-pooing the episode for the end, but it was just noticeable that end part and how fast it kind of came about.
Right.
So unless you got something else you want to bring up.
No, that's it. That's it. We can move on.
Yeah. By the way, folks, just FYI, going back to Thor: Love and Thunder, and this will be in the show notes, but in the clickbait section, you'll find a bunch of goodies in there, including some anime stuff, which we would be getting a lot of later on in the show. But apparently the soundtrack to Thor: Love and Thunder has been put out. So if you have seen it and enjoyed the soundtrack, there it is out there on Marvel.com for you, in the clickbait section of the show notes. And if you haven't, you might want to be careful, just in case you don't want to be spoiled about some of the music that is in this. But if you've seen the trailers, I'm pretty sure you got a pretty good idea. All right, that being said, we're going over to the books of the week. I don't know if you had a transition for that, but...
I generally don't, but I will put one in this weekend. I guess we'll start putting one in going forward.
Yeah, you don't have to. No. I just can't remember whether you did or not. That's why I was kind of giving you a second. But we're going to go over into the books of the week, starting off with Strange Academy number 18, which was, for me anyway, a surprise that it came out.
Right. Definitely a surprise because we were under the impression that they were on a summer break.
Right.
And, you know, considering that we're literally in the middle of, well, we just started summer. So maybe maybe it depends on which school calendar they're going off of. Right. Because I know that there are some schools in the United States that have summer break start a lot earlier than say here in the Northeast. Yes. But in any event, this book is written, this is number 18, is written by Scotty Young with art by Humberto Ramos, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So if you have been keeping up with Strange Academy, you know that the children have started to assert themselves. And they are protesting what they feel are unfair practices at the Strange Academy. And they have taken things, in my opinion, maybe a step too far. And we start to see even more of that in this issue. What do you think, Roddykat?
Well, so part of what you said, I agree with. But at the same time, they didn't necessarily, I don't believe they, matter of fact, they said in this book, they didn't even know what the world they were going for outside of the fact that Emily didn't want Calvin to be expelled. And that's pretty much the only thing we got. We found them in this issue trying to suss out whatever it is they were trying to save that protest. But mainly they didn't really have anything. Emily is like, yeah, we don't really have anything. It was just about, it was mainly about Calvin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it just started raining here. That's weird. Not weird, but so that being said, it's like, yeah, so the book of this, well, half of this issue is them trying to suss that out, and the second and third parts is them dealing with the faculty who have actually found them, in the place that they thought they would never look. Which I thought that was kind of funny as well too. Even though no one's mentioned it, I was like, okay, that's a pretty decent hideout. But at the same time, apparently they knew the look here. But then again, hey, they're expert magicians, so I figure they can divine where these kids are. It would make total sense, just to kind of push it along. Which leads into another plot that has something to do with that was brought up before, that I guess up until now I didn't think was there was anything to it, having to do with two interlinked students and something that one of them possesses. Right.
And obviously one of the overhanging I don't know if you could call it the sword of Damocles, but there is one particular character amongst the students who, at least at first glance, at first blush, one of these things is not like the other, right? One of these students is not, quite the same, right? There's one student who has a particular ancestry where you're like, wait a second, this is not going to turn out right. This is probably going to turn out very bad. And it's, and right now they're heading towards that path, and we're presuming that there's going to be some sort of heroic twist, at some point, but right. They're not. It's not trending in that direction. It's definitely not. They're definitely going full bore into fulfilling our expectations to a certain extent with this character.
They've definitely been dangling in that for the past few issues, and yeah, I agree with you. I feel like there's going to be definitely a dramatic turn in where they're heading with that, which would only make sense. If they let that go, then I'm not sure how they would explain.
Right. You wonder, because this is more along the lines of nature versus nurture.
Right.
That's a philosophical argument that you could take with this character. And, there's the nurture up until the point of entry into the academy. And then there's the nurture that comes once they're in the academy. So, it's a matter of, seeing how Scotty Young and company decide to take, which direction they decide to take this series. And it is such a strong book that I'm more than willing to be patient and just keep waiting for it. The one of the characters does take a pretty dramatic turn in this that Roddykat makes a mention of. So, ultimately, it's I've really enjoyed reading this. It's a candidate for Kliq of the Week for me because I did have a good time just seeing what these characters were up to, what these kids were up to, and realizing there is a genuine hole in the Marvel universe right now without Stephen Strange running around in it.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. Kliq is here. We're fine.
There's still a hole.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I know. No, I'm joking on that. But yeah, part of me was thinking, I was like, well, just like I was saying, if they, if they do end up going where they're teasing us with, like, that could be a way for them to possibly end this book. And still kind of reverse the course of what we believe could be, what is believed could be happening. But I would not want that to happen because I would like this book to stay along for as long as it's humanly possible, because it is, like Agent 7 said, it's a strong book, and I've been enjoying reading this the whole time.
Absolutely. And there's a nice little Easter egg at the end with a copy of a takeout receipt. It's pretty funny. Yeah. It's pretty good.
That was pretty good. That's another good thing about this book, is they put little things at the end of the book like that, and it's pretty enjoyable.
Right. So what we're getting now is actually a relaunch in a few months. Mm-hmm. So there's a note from an assistant editor at the end of this issue that tells us to be on the lookout for a new volume of Strange Academy.
Because we all know number one sell.
Yep.
Which is the sad part, because there was no need for it, and there's no event that, as far as we know, for this to draw from, for that to be of any, I don't want to say front running, because obviously I don't want to think Marvel, that's all Marvel's out for, but let's face it, it is a business. That they're kind of leaning towards to kind of justify it. Not that this book needs any justification for a number one, but at the same time, like, well, they didn't necessarily need it.
Right.
So, but we'll see. Regardless, it's still here, and that's the main thing. See, we did say we're going to go next into Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor #2 as our next book.
All right. Just need a moment. Uh-oh. Okay. Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor #2 is written by Torunn Grønbæk with art by Michael Dowling, colors by Jesus Aburtov, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. We pick up right where we left off. Well, actually, no, we don't pick up right where we left off in the last issue, but we establish what has happened to Thor Odinson. And Jane Foster's on the case, wielding the current version of Mjolnir.
Meow meow?
Oh, yeah. So, we find out what's happening with Asgard. Things are looking very bleak. Meanwhile, Jane is, investigating what happened to Thor and runs into characters that we just talked about in the previous book.
Yes.
That we just talked about, Strange Academy. So
not only that, but there's an MCU sighting of sorts.
Yeah, of sorts. So, there's a few things going on here. We get, basically what's happening within Asgard. At the same time, we're also getting a little bit of crossover with stuff that we've seen in the pages of the recent issues of New Mutants. Mm-hmm. Right? Which kind of begs the question as to why a certain New Mutant wasn't available for this story. Or maybe they're going to appear later on.
Maybe.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, they would be involved. Yeah.
So, but I'll leave it at that. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Actually, going on to that, given I kind of curious about that because since you did mention that, given what's going on currently in New Mutants and what this character is trying to do to get away from, particularly who shows up at the end and that kind of stuff.
Right.
I kind of wonder if this is maybe taken after that and there's already a resolution, or who this it was before that. We don't know because the comic book timelines are very slippery.
Right.
But that
right. It's hard to know. It's not like we're dealing with an actual crossover.
Right.
So it's hard to say.
Right. But that being said, I enjoyed the book. The first part where Odin was telling the story on what's going on. I'm like, okay, this is what we needed. We need to get from there to here. The person that shows up at the end of the book was kind of surprised. Especially going back to what you were just saying and what I just said. But yeah, I've been enjoying the book so far. Like I said, part of me was thinking, obviously they do these books at very 6 months to a year, maybe sometimes longer than that to start these books. And there was a couple of times, there was one particular time in bringing up something that I just mentioned that I'm like, wait, did they really time that because it was coming out by the movie and having it play out like it did? Because that's a pretty interesting coincidence.
Right.
Like, obviously this whole book is out because of the fact of Thor: Love and Thunder. There's probably no denying that. I'm sure someone would try, but it's kind of hard to not believe that this book was timed appropriately for that reason. It's just that something that happens in the book seems kind of timely. There were no goats involved in this one, sadly, but just the fact that there was something similar that happened was kind of amusing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, outside of that, like I said, I enjoyed it. There's really not much else to say for that. Don't know where this book is going outside. That is the other key thing I'm kind of curious about. Enjoying the ride so far, but like I said, I'm not sure what this is trying to do at the end of this.
It's a good question. It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Alrighty, next up.
Do you want to round it out
with
with
book comment?
Yeah, actually we do.
Amazing, right?
Spidey and actually I think we might have one more in common. Black Panther. Those are two.
Okay. All right. So let's just do. Amazing. I think goes pretty quickly.
Yeah. Let's do Amazing.
Amazing Spider-Man #5 is written by Zeb Wells with pencils by John Romita Jr., inks by Scott Hanna, colors by Marcio Miniz, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So, this is the immediate aftermath of Spidey basically taking down the Rose's headquarters and henchmen, and Spidey basically figuring out that he's been played by Tombstone, and Spidey essentially figures out, after some thought and a night of sleep, figures out a way to turn at least some of the tables. We do get a nice appearance by a steady friend / old flame. We get the continuing harassment. I'm like, seriously, that's not harassment from the bill collector? Obviously, there's got to be something more to this character, more to that character's appearance, like regular appearance. But I don't think that's a regular, I don't think that's legal. Right.
To be staking out somebody's house for
a bill. For a hospital bill.
Right.
So, that just seems like it's a bit excessive. So it seems like there's probably much more to this than meets the eye.
Right. So if I may, I want to adjust something real quick. Not saying you put everything in line quite nicely, but yeah, he did finally end up bringing his wits about him. But let's face it, it was because of that timely intervention of that of the person that kind of, I want to say, at least kickstarted it. Because I feel like if that person hadn't showed up and when they did and said what they said, he probably would have still gone down and just beat down the tombstone, the beat down tombstone, like we thought we was going to do. And by the way, that yes, of course, that the cover that you're seeing right now on your screen misleading as some.
Oh yeah, I mean figuratively it happens. Let's say that.
Sure. Yeah, the payback that was given that ends up the comeuppance that was happened in this book was great, just not the way that we expected it to come. In a way better way, honestly. I liked the way it was handled. I was like, all right, there we go. We know this man's smart, so it's good that he's actually using it a little bit more than his brains. We still don't really know what happened 6 months ago, but we're getting shades of the we kind of getting shades of what might be the cause of some of it, and we still don't know the actual event, and we're also getting some reconciliation at the end of this issue. But we still don't know, and the reason why I'm saying that is because we still don't know what actually happened yet, and I don't know when we're going to find out.
Right, we're literally 5 issues. We're going to be 6 issues in,
right?
And we still don't know.
So Zeb Wells probably playing a lengthy con here for some reason with this.
Right,
I'm sitting here, I can't imagine what event would be so big to cause everything we know to happen, which granted is not much, or to cause Peter to act the way he does, and
to cause all of the other side effects too.
Right, and especially we don't know what the hell happened, because as we talked about the last issue, what that whole thing with the kid with Mary Jane's kid with.
Right, like wait, when did this happen? What's going on? What, exactly. So it's very very odd.
Yeah.
But and everyone, and what's funny is that everyone seems to acknowledge that that's the current status quo,
right?
Including the steady, the steady former love interest character,
right? So yeah, until that piece, that majorly big piece comes into play, they still kind of have us partially on the hook.
Yep.
For this.
Yep.
That being said, though, we can go into rapid fire.
Sure. I will spin it up, and then I'll start with Black Panther, because that's the last book that Roddykat and I have in common.
Yep.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, so Black Panther number 7 is written by John Ridley with art by Stefano Landini, colors by Matt Milla, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So T'Challa has to come clean in order to get the help that he needs, because things are not looking good in terms of him trying to reassert some level of normalcy in Wakanda, in the capital city of Birnanzana, because as power, power corrupts absolutely. We just sort of know this as a fact of life, and we see it happen here with the Hatut Zeraze, and the democratically elected leadership is not powerless, but they are left searching for unlikely allies as the result of what's basically like an armed insurrection. And there is a
military coup.
What's that?
That's basically almost like a military coup.
Right. Well, that's just another way of putting it.
Right. But and the reason why I brought it up, because it's like, okay, this is a story that happens in places, happens at times, probably has more than likely has happened here a couple of times. That's why I was like, okay, I see what you're doing here, a little bit more clearly. So,
right,
that being put out like that.
Right. So I put it one way, Roddykat put it another. What I was getting towards, though, is that we have the introduction of a new character, and I hesitate to think that this is where the Black Panther movies might be going.
quite possibly. And although that character has been introduced in I can't remember if it was in a previous issue of this or in another Black Panther related book, but yeah, this person gets introduced to other people in the world outside of the people that he already knew. Put it that way.
Right. It's the timing of it.
Right.
That raises my spider sense.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
You know, so, but with that said, as I said earlier, T'Challa has to come clean. You know, Shuri's doing her level best to try to, you know, help T'Challa's plans out. This new character is able to help start, you know, aiding her, and as I mentioned, T'Challa basically has to come clean to all of his people that he's basically betrayed and lied to, and you know, lost the confidence of, and so it's a setup for what we're figuring is what's stated to be the last issue in this story arc. So we will see what happens now that T'Challa has had to come clean, basically stated that he's not looking to restore any sort of status quo with regards to him wielding influence and power in Wakanda. So we'll see how that plays out in the next issue.
Right. He was all but on his hands and knees and singing Creaky Sweat with the way he was talking to his people, including when Aurora, which apparently he and Aurora's relationship, judging by that last conversation they had, is in a place still.
It's because I think it's developed into a different place because of because of what happened on Araco.
Right.
And because of her current status as, you know, as the queen of the soul, you know, as the voice of the soul system.
Right. As regent. Yeah. Right. But like, it's weird, and I said it like that because I first originally wrote in my notes like it seemed like it's still complicated, but like Agent 70 said, like yeah, they're because of. Which seems to be like a turnabout because at one point T'Challa was the one that was like, well, you know, king first, and then, you know, everything else second in a way. But so this feels a little bit of turnabout. But at the same time, you kind of get the sense that there's something still there by the conversation. But yeah, it's in a place that seems like seems a little bit more finite than what we've known before now, or what we've been led to believe before now, I guess. I don't know. It's
okay.
All right.
I'll move on to the rest of my rapid fire. So, Roddykat, have you been keeping up with Avengers Forever?
I'm a couple issues behind.
Okay, so, you know, but we know what the gist of this is, right? We're gathering, we're assembling, more aptly, right? We're assembling the multiversal Avengers. This issue I enjoyed, but it's probably because I'm a Captain America fan, right? This issue is written by Jason Aaron with pencils by Aaron Cooter, inks by Cam Smith, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Corey Petit or Corey Pettit. So the title of this issue is The Pillars Part 2 Escape from Cell Block Steve. And I just enjoyed the variance of Steve Rogers in this issue. I just enjoyed the characters that Aaron created for this issue. And I've not always had that kind of affinity or just enjoyment. I haven't always taken enjoyment out of the variance that creators come up with when we're dealing with the multiverse. You know, case in point, the What If with Miles Morales that garnered so much critical notice over the last month, right? And another issue of it is out this week, which I decided not to read.
Yeah.
So, but I really enjoyed the variant Steves that were portrayed in this issue. So hopefully when Roddykat gets around to reading this, he will enjoy it too. I actually enjoyed it enough that it's a candidate for Kliq of the Week for me. I don't think it'll surpass Strange Academy, but I did in fact like this issue very much. Next up is Batman number 125. It is the first issue of Chip Zdarsky's hopefully decently sized, decently long run on the book. With art by Jorge Jimenez, colors are by Tomo Mori, and letters are by Clayton Cowles doing freelance work. So the creative team, other than the writer, has stayed on the Batman book. Everyone else, but for the writer, it has stayed fairly consistent on Batman. And for an opening story, I thought it was pretty strong. I know that one of our other co-hosts in absentia felt that this was also a pretty strong opening issue for a new arc on Batman. So, without going too much into it, there's a nice setup. There's definitely a decent decent story that could be that could grow out of the setup. So we'll see how Zdarsky plays this story plays this game, the way the story sets up moving forward. Next up for me is Captain America Sentinel of Liberty number 2. It's written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, former guests of the Comic Book Chronicles, with art by Carmen Carnero and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So, we pick up essentially where we left off at the end of the first issue with a mystery, and investigations are afoot by basically the two main protagonists in this book, one being Steve Rogers, the other being James Buchanan, Bucky Barnes. The first, let's say, 2/3 of the book is tasked with covering what Steve and his erstwhile fellow World War II veterans, the few surviving ones, are able to figure out when it comes to some mysteries that have emerged based on the origin of his shield. With the help of some of his newfound friends in his community college art class, he's able to discover even more about the origins of his shield, and that leads him on a mission going into Germany and dealing with what turns out to be a situation where possibly the big bads of this story arc make an appearance, but in shadow only. But they make a big move against Cap in this particular issue. And the last third of the book has Bucky investigating another aspect of this mystery, of this vast conspiracy. And we run into a character that was resurrected in the previous run, a couple of the previous runs by Ta-Nehisi Coates. So we will see how that character and Bucky play together, whether or not that's going to be a nice pairing or not, and how that weaves into this current story. I have to give the editorial corner and the writing corner of Captain America a bit of let's say some kudos, because they are picking up threads that previous creative teams have left dangling, and they're playing off them. So I appreciate that, as as someone who's read comics for a while now. I appreciate that they're not just going whole cloth in their own direction. They are picking up on some of the storylines and some of the plot threads that are kind of left out there by the previous creative team. Next up is Ghost Rider number 4. It's written by Benjamin Percy, with pencils by Corey Smith, inks by Oren Jr., colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So this Ghost Rider book is, a little bit like the Incredible Hulk series from the 70s, where we run into Bill Bixby, aka David Banner, the misnamed Bruce Banner. But in this case, it's actually Johnny Blaze. He's finding himself on the road trying to figure out what the Ghost Rider is leading him towards, because he basically wakes up with a hint burned into a surface that the Ghost Rider leaves him so that he heads in the right direction. He's also being pursued by some supernatural investigators from the FBI and ex-SHIELD. And we also find out that in this issue, the circus of crime has been possessed by demons. I really am referring to the Ringmaster and his goons. So, bottom line here is, there's a very creepy aesthetic to this book. You just have to sort of patiently wait out to see where this is going. If you're a fan of the Ghost Rider and of like some of the darker demonic sides of the Marvel universe, then this book might be for you. I'm just sort of patiently waiting to see where they're going with this. It's not like at the top of my reading list. It's definitely towards the bottom, but I'm curious to see where Percy takes the story. Next and last for me is Philadelphia number 23. This is a book published by Image. It's written by Rodney Barnes with art by Jason Sean Alexander, with an art assist by Herman Aramuspe and Nicole Palmquist. Colors are by Luis Nicht, and letters are by Marshall Dillon. So if you've been keeping up with Philadelphia, like I have, you know that it seems like they are building up to a big finale. I don't know if that's the case anymore, because we're now at issue 23. I don't know if they're going to be able to resolve some of the outstanding storylines or plot lines that have been established in 2 issues. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm wondering if they're setting up a big battle that's going to occur over maybe issues 26 through 30. Maybe they're setting up another arc, another trade paperback. That's what it seems like, because this issue took a long time in setting up the relationships going into the final battle, the relationships between a lot of the cast in the book. So I'm wondering if maybe it's not going to end at issue 25, but may take a small break and then go into another trade paperback that's sort of like the final battle. But that's bottom line, just conjecture on my part. Complete conjecture on my part. I don't know what Rodney Barnes is planning with this book. I'm kind of curious, thinking about maybe checking out his Twitter feed or reaching out and finding out if he's published any plans, put out any plans as to how long Philadelphia is going to last. But this is not the best jumping on point, because there are a lot of moving parts in this story. There are a lot of supporting characters and a revolving cast of main characters, of antagonists and protagonists, and revolving loyalties. So it is this. I do not think this is a good place to start. You would definitely have to go back to issue 1 and go from there. So I'm enjoying this book. It's definitely got its quirks, but I definitely have a good time reading it. I just would recommend that you start from issue 1 as opposed to jumping on now, because it definitely seems like I'm kind of quoting Doctor Strange here by saying it seems like we're in the end game now. And that's it for me.
Oh boy. Alrighty, so for myself, because there's something I have to remember to mention after I do mine. Magic: The Gathering number 16. It is written by. Why am my scroll's not working? What's going on? What's going on? Written by Jed McKay, illustrated by Jacques Salomon, colors by Natalia Nestorenko, and letters by Ed Dukeshire. Which, by the way, every time you say Marshall Dillon, I think of Gunsmoke for some reason.
I don't have that specific reference, but I know that that's like a famous name. So every time I read that credit, I'm like, huh.
Yeah, that's the name of the sheriff that was on basically the main guy on Gunsmoke.
Right.
Don't ask me why I even know that. I'm old, folks. I watched a lot of TV. Anywho, but yeah, Magic the Gathering number 16. So we still have our group, our trio of planeswalkers, trying to get into Ravnica, but they have been sidetracked because they need a plan and some information, and they've gone to hunt down one of the ne'er-do-wells who they have seen earlier that was involved in this plan or whatever's going on. And it just so happens as they are going after this person's one of those sniveling, hey, I'm going to, I'm going for my own survival. I'm going to do what I have to do to survive type situation. So as expected, this person has switched allegiances, or at least temporarily anyway. Or it could be a double cross. We don't even know. But what started off as them apprehending this person ends up in them kind of teaming up with them and getting information from this person about what is going on, which also has to do with what is going on with another miniseries, thankfully, that I've been reading called Magic the Hidden Planeswalker, because there is the subject of that particular miniseries is involved in this plot, unbeknownst to them. And that miniseries is kind of still ongoing, so it's probably going to push back into this this main book near the end, and there's going to be a couple more parties that are going to enter the fray, I imagine, because of that. Let's see, last book for me, which granted I skimmed it, but I think I've read enough of it to kind of get the gist of it for at least right now until I go back to it. Because as Agent 70 said earlier, yeah, this book's kind of a read. It's kind of weird. And that would be Legion of X, number 3, which is written by Cy Spurrier, art by Jan or Jan Baldua. Oh wait, did I forget? I probably did forget the Z in there. Yeah. Color artist Bay. I was about to say Federico Bay. Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So a couple of things going on here. We see Nightcrawler and Weaponless Zen go on a trip. They seem to be, for lack of a better word, bonding as they're going on this little head trip or whatever the case may be. And on the other side of this, we see another bonding session between, wow, I do have typos in this thing. Good gosh. Legion and Juggernaut, who, this is a side of Juggernaut you really don't ever see, let's just put it that way, because I don't know if, I know Agent 7 is kind of iffy on this book. It's safe to say that. So I don't know if he's actually going to read this issue or not. But that part in itself was kind of amusing to kind of read over. The whole conversation between Juggernaut and Legion, especially starting off. But I'm not sure where in the world this book is going, and the end of it is not making that much better. Although it does get to a place, and even in the if you're watching the video version of this, you can see a shadow in the background of the cover. You know, seemingly suggesting something that I don't remember seeing showing up in this issue, but it denotes someone that I don't think I've seen in the X books ever. If it is that person, so, or being, I should say, not necessarily a person, but regardless, I'm definitely going to reread this book because, like I said, I kind of glossed over some stuff in trying to read it fast, getting prepared for this show. But yeah, I'm still kind of on it. Like I said, this is a weird one to read, but yeah, still interesting. Actually, I think there's even a I was gonna say there was a Strange Academy tie in it, but no, there's not. There is an appearance by someone that is not around, but that's I can't remember the nature of why that was the case. That is it for me and my books. We're going to Kliqs of the Week.
Kliqs of the Week.
So we got one from actually both of our absent hosts, and that would be Batman 125 from both Tim and Dirt. I don't think they said anything. And actually, it seemed like Dirt was a strong second because he seemed emphatic about it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
listen, I thought it was an interesting pick. I thought it was a good start,
right,
for a new run on Batman. So I don't disagree. I just think it's an interesting pick.
Sure. Now, here's my question to you: having just finished reading his Daredevil run, and I granted it's probably kind of soon to tell, you think there's any shades of similarity? Probably not in the story, but the way he's handling the character.
Probably a little bit in the story, to be honest.
Oh, okay. I was kind of wondering about that.
Probably a little in the story, to be honest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes that tends to happen, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not be surprised if that's the case. But it being that I did not read Daredevil and I'm not reading this, I would not know. So I'm curious.
Right.
Do you have yours, or?
I can tell you what my candidates are.
I know one of them.
Right. So Avengers Forever, number 7. You know, I came out and said I just enjoyed reading it. It was a great multiversal piece. You know, literally they found a way to gather different versions of Steve Rogers together for a reason. And it's contrived, of course, but this is comics. Everything's contrived. But at the end of the day, I just thought it was a really nice review of, the paths that, the paths not taken. Right. I really enjoyed Strange Academy number 18, though. I loved catching up with these characters. I got a kick out of seeing one character really kind of step into her own, but at the same time, it was, maybe not for the best, maybe not in the best way or for the best reasons.
I feel if I say the word Phoenix, there's a similarity there that could be taken.
Yeah, you could definitely feel that. So I think my vote is going to be for Strange Academy number 18.
I will not argue with that pick ever, because it is we can safely say it's one of our favorite books of recent years.
Yeah, recent vintage, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's easy to say that. I'm going to put that one up. And for myself, Strange Academy is definitely a strong pick of a Kliq. Honestly, let me see. Spidey kind of surprised me with the way that was handled. I can't say that it was strong enough to make the cut, but the way that one went off was actually surprisingly good. Even that Jane Foster book was actually, in the book, it was pretty good. Especially, on both ends, actually, the beginning and the end. The middle also, but like I said, the one leads to the other. But you know what? I think I'm actually going to go with you on Strange Academy on that. So
all right,
that was probably the strongest book that I've read, that I've focusedly read, I should say, because I've read a couple of other things that I didn't put in there but I had just skimmed it, so it wasn't worth putting in there. That being said, folks, we can go into the news section. So how about one ad read, please, sir?
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us, that's cspn.us, then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
That's funny. Oh, wow. So we get into the cinematic news, but before I get into the cinematic news, I wanted to say something I forgot to mention earlier about Thor: Love and Thunder. Not a spoiler. If you're coming, let's say, into this without a whole lot of knowledge of Thor, I'm not saying it's the best recap of what's going on in the film, but it's a pretty decent one that starts off the movie of going through, not necessarily all of his movies, but getting from here to there was a pretty good recap. Like I said, if you're kind of light on what's been going on or what has happened with Thor,
right,
going into it. But anyway,
and I was about to say, amazingly enough, hard to believe, 4th solo movie.
Right, and maybe possibly a 5th coming. We don't know.
We don't know. All right, carry on.
So, well, first of all, Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons got married. That's not in the news. I just saw that, and I was like, that's crazy weird.
I thought that was old news. I thought they've been married.
I don't know. Let me see. Is it? But I just saw it.
I thought they had kids already.
No, it says it's July 8th.
Oh, really?
No, they get married. Yeah, that's crazy because I never would have put them two together. For those that y'all probably know who Kirsten Dunst is, but Jesse Plemons you've seen the dude before in a lot of stuff. You just might not know who it is. He's kind of one of those kind of guys, like real pale dude.
Like but I was gonna say, if you watched Breaking Bad, you'd be very surprised that this was the guy that Kirsten Dunst was getting married to. But he's done other things, obviously.
Yeah, I was about to say, dude's got actually some range because he's played a pretty decent villain at times, and he also played lighter roles and stuff like that. So it's like I said, you probably know him if you see him. And yeah, I was like, that's crazy. I didn't even know that. Anyway, first in cinematic news, Kevin Feige teases more versions of Thor after Thor: Love and Thunder, apparently. So we saw this last week, but I forgot to put it in the thing. So according to this article, here's a quote from Feige: "There are these things called comic books that have a lot of stories in them, and that's where all our stories come from." Apparently during the press conference, Thor: Love and Thunder press conference. And if the question is, have you told all the great horror stories from the comics and the movies? The answer is no. There are lots of them. And I've always said our interest in making additional stories is somewhat continuing the character. It's also entirely about continuing the experience with the actor and being able to see. I think of all of our casts not as their individual characters, but as Marvel players who within the character can grow and evolve and change. As we look at the comics as our guide, there are plenty of incarnations of Thor that we have yet to see. End quote. So when we talked about this last week, immediately went to Beta Ray Bill because we haven't seen. Technically we kind of saw a image of him, but we didn't see him in Ragnarok. Throg we kind of saw in Loki, but hey, who doesn't want to hear Chris Hemsworth voice Throg, right? And there are many others, and I go back to, and Agent 70 knows where I'm going with this. During Secret Wars, which we think they may be kind of going towards, there was an absolutely great miniseries that everybody on the panel loved, called Thor's, which was basically Thor's as a detective. Think like Homicide Life on the Streets, or in any number of TV cop shows. But it's basically
like NYPD Blue, anything like that. Yeah.
Right. Or if you're a DC person, it's the Green Lanterns, but more of a police procedural type. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think I might go back and reread that. But that being said, there are other versions of Thor apparently that we haven't seen, even though we got shades of some and whatnot that Feige's teasing apparently. So we'll see if any of them happen to show up. We already saw another one. Well, if you've seen Thor: Love and Thunder, we saw one. So anyway, next up.
Next up, Thor: Love and Thunder star Jamie Alexander wants a Lady Sif TV show. So this is a mild spoiler for Thor: Love and Thunder. So so we know, if you're up on checking out credits, we know that Jamie Alexander does make a return in Thor: Love and Thunder, and now she's put it out on social media that she would love to see Sif in a Disney Plus TV series, and she put it out on the gram saying, if Lady Sif had a series, what would you like to see? I'm loving some hashtag Beta Ray Bill. What do you think at Walter Simonson 5? That is in fact the Instagram handle of Walt Simonson.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and as some folks in the comic may know, Sif and Beta Ray Bill has actually probably still has sort of a thing going on.
Yep.
That last Beta Ray Bill miniseries kind of put them in a place, but still, regardless. So yeah, why not? Also,
what's great, what I was going to say, hold that thought. What's great is, you can tell here that, that Jamie Alexander knew exactly who to hit up.
Yes.
For support. Mm-hmm. Like someone who's actually looked at some of the source material.
Right. Which we know some of them do. So
right, like I said, it's not, that's one reason why I mentioned that. So we know that some of them don't look at the source material and they're just like, yeah, I'm going to do my own thing.
Famously, sadly enough, yeah.
Exactly, but it's nice to know that she has in fact looked into the source material and understands where the character of Sif is coming from. So shouting out Walt, Uncle Walt is great. Hashtagging scuttlebutt, Surtur, Corbinites. I'm like, that's what? I understand, that could be the work of a personal assistant, but my gut says she's probably looked into this already.
Yeah, I feel like that's
she knows what to add, Yeah.
Oh, and also I feel like, so while this is a newer article, I feel like she's been saying something similar since that cameo on Loki.
Right.
So not that big of a surprise, but still somewhat news. And yeah, like I said, she did show up in the thing, so I guess that's a light spoiler. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is quote unquote probably Drax's last movie, and this person right here, this one here, not to quote the classic Mantis, would be happy with that, but that's just me. Anyway, it says that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 wrapped filming last month. James Gunn confirmed that this would be the last film to feature the original Guardians, which we knew that. And this is not that big of a surprise, but it is likely the last time Dave Bautista will play Drax. Bautista admitted he was in a quote-unquote weird place playing Drax. I think that may have something to do with other things and not necessarily the character, but who's to say? Quote-unquote, I try to never say never when it comes to these things, but it's probably Drax's last movie. It's the end of the story for this group of Guardians. Gunn replied when a fan asked if this will be Drax's final movie. Like we know, Bautista has also come out and said, has lent his opinion to certain things surrounding certain people that he's worked with, including James Gunn. So that probably has more to do with that than anything else.
Sure, and also some frustration with the direction that they took Drax in.
Honestly, I did have frustration with that myself, but I also don't like Dave Bautista, so I can't put my finger on it. So I don't care. Now, I had more of a problem with how they did Mantis than Drax, but neither here nor there. So,
right. Next up, Ms. Marvel star teases character surprising return. So, this is kind of, so these are spoilers for episode 4.
Apparently.
Let's see. So some believe that one of the red daggers or basically the main red dagger that gets taken out might come back. That's the bottom line.
Right, the leader that we meet in episode 4 somehow can come back. I mean, hell, it happens in the comics all the time, so something like that could happen. But
right,
for what? In what relation to Miss Marvel? We don't know at this point. Yeah. I mean, granted, actually, we kind of do know. Maybe it's a dream sequence and that a quick dream sequence in the next episode. You know, that seems more likely than anything. But you know, this person is saying that it could happen somewhere along the lines. But also on Ms. Marvel news that I alluded to earlier, Ms. Marvel co-creator is most nervous about the reaction to the next episode, which is being episode 5 that just dropped. Quote, "We took some risks." So yeah, she there was an interview with Entertainment Weekly, and the producer shared her thoughts about what's coming in episode 5, and she said the aforementioned "we took some risks." Sometimes those big swings can be the most rewarding when it comes to television shows. She says, you know, think about your favorite programs and center episodes, and basically, you know, she's a little nervous about it. That you know, without going into too far on it, because again, it's still new. That she's a little nervous about it and kind of curious about what people are going to say about this episode, which I'm sure has already come out, especially with the next article that we're talking about in one respect, which is
right. So, you know, with regards to episode 5 that we just talked about, the actress that plays Aisha Maywish Hayat is thanking the fans who've taken to social media to gush over the romance between Kamala Khan's maternal great grandparents, that is. And you know, she's shouting them out. You know, she's giving a lot of thanks on Twitter. It looks like.
Yes.
So good for her. Good for her. You know. So glad to meet you.
Yeah, like I said, she and the dude who played her son played pretty strong characters, or you know, played the parts real strong. So, Marvel's Moon Girl and Daredevil Dinosaur adds Raphael Saadiq as executive music producer. I saw the featurette when this was, I assume, was announced, because there was a featurette that just happened. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot this was still a thing. And it turns out a couple of things to find out from this. That one, that being Raphael Saadiq of 2020 fame and Solo fame,
right?
Who, you know, has done Marvel tied work before. You will note that he was, I believe, the music producer on Luke Cage previously. So not a surprise, but yeah, he's good at what he does. Also, the other thing I found out was that the girl who's voicing Lunella is also the one who is singing the theme song of the show, which it's pretty cool. So you get a chance. Matter of fact, I believe that featurette is in this article that you can check out yourself in the show notes. Next up, Agatha, House of Harkness, Marvel's WandaVision spin-off starring Catherine Hahn's titular, which now has a production start date. Production is going to take place in Atlanta, and it's going to start in January 2023 and go through May of next year. Okay. See if we can get Tim on the set.
Yeah, maybe.
Charlie Cox's Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is confirmed for Marvel's Echo. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Cox and D'Onofrio will reprise their roles in the show, confirming long-standing rumors about their returns. I dare say not surprising as a comic book reader, given how the end of Hawkeye ended. That was also in the comics. So I'm curious if they're going to continue to go down that line. So that'll be interesting. As to Charlie Cox's role in this, given that they went away from Echo's, or they changed Echo's intro for Hawkeye as opposed to putting her in where in the Devil show, which there wasn't one. Be curious to see what's going to change with this. And it sounds like the show is also, according to this, possibly set up Kristen Ritter's return as Jessica Jones. So, and it says here that the article notes that the show has a plot that sees Daredevil looking for a former ally going into that. So if that's how they're going to bring the Marvel Netflix store folks into the MCU, I'm sure. Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, next up. Ahsoka will please Rebels fans, but it's a standalone Star Wars story. So, Ahsoka star Natasha Liu Bordizzo recently explained that the upcoming Disney Plus show will tell a standalone story that will please everyone, regardless of whether they're already a fan of Star Wars Rebels. This is the actress that has been cast to play Sabine Wren.
Mm-hmm. So,
all right,
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, that's an interesting note, I guess. Let's see. Next up, the Flash fans will find out whether the show's final season date soon, apparently. Showrunner Eric Wallace teased the fans that the Fastest Man Alive may soon learn whether or not its upcoming 9th season will be the last. Speaking with Deadline, Wallace was asked when he himself would learn if the Scarlet Speedster Stevie Adventures would reach the finish line with season 9, and he quotes, "It's the question I get asked every 5 minutes. I wish I could answer it. I wish I knew. I hope I will know by the time we start shooting this fall. I think that's a fair statement, so stay tuned." Which makes sense because they have slashed a lot of CW shows, including a lot of Arrowverse shows, so this happens to be the one that's been along the longest. So, like, whether they're fully getting rid of the Arrowverse or, this show's going to live for another season, which some would argue whether it would or need to or not. Who's to say? Next up.
All right, so there is an official trailer out for Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons. I have not watched this yet. So it is going to be available on Blu-ray and digital on October 18th, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched it?
Yeah, I watched the trailer. It was all right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's setting up kind of setting up somewhat similar to that Super Sons book that they had out. There was, obviously with animated flair. HBO Max releases first episode of Harley Quinn season 3 ahead of the new season for free, apparently. So, yeah, if you haven't caught up on the first, according to shout out to Tim, if you hadn't caught up on the first 2 seasons of Harley Quinn, now's your chance to check out the very first episode before season 3 makes its debut. It may not be a long wait, but season 3 will finally premiere in July, so it's not too long anyway. That's pretty much that. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I thought this was episode 3, the first episode of episode 3. This is apparently the episode 1 of season 1. It appears. So okay, so this is the thing that starts it all off. But there's also was a trailer for season 3 that happened this week. With the aforementioned date, which I thought we said already, of July 28th. So next up.
Okay. Help me with this. Is this pronounced Ruby?
Yeah.
Okay, Ruby is one of the biggest animated series that Rooster Teeth has produced. That you can hear literally the slip of my tongue that's betraying what I was just thinking about.
It's hot, folks.
Has produced over the years of its existence, and with a new season arriving in the form of Ruby Ice Queendom, it seems that the anime heroines are set to be a part of a major crossover with the biggest heroes of the DC Comics universe. RWBY Justice League has been confirmed to arrive next year, with the story originally arriving as a comic book series last year, and marks a clash between the world of anime and the world of North American comic books. Should I have played the Anime Corner intro?
No.
Okay.
I mean, this is teetering on that, but nah.
Okay. No problem.
I had intended to move this closer to that, but don't worry about it.
No problem. All right, moving on.
Yeah, I read a little bit of that, and I never did finish that crossover. So
right, so it's coming in 2023 at some point. No release date set yet.
Right. Wilfredo, the voice of Radiant Black. Oh, wait, what's going on here? So basically, just for those who don't know, which I think we are amongst those, there is a series from Image Comics, which I still haven't read yet, and I said I was going to catch up on, called Radiant Black. That is,
I read a little bit of it at the beginning. I fell off.
Right. Yeah, and it even has offshoots, and I think that it's pretty much going for its own cinematic universe. Well, it's going to be its own universe at this point. So, the very last issue, apparently fans were treated to a special treat in issue 15, in the form of a hidden QR code that leads to a fully animated short called Versus. In fact, it wasn't for the fact that I saw that clip of it on Twitter, I wouldn't have known that. Because I was thinking, I was like, wow, I didn't know they had already made a animated series out of it, but they didn't. It's just this one short, but that could sound like it could be setting it up for them to do that. Put it that way. But yeah, so directed by Radiant Black writer, co-creator Kyle Higgins, animated by Tiger Animation, and featuring Batman Beyond's Wilfredo as the voice of Radiant Black himself, this new short gives us a taste of what the comic could look like as an animated series. So yeah, it says here, if you haven't picked up a copy of Radiant Black 15, you can check out the video below. Which I took a look at this short. It's actually pretty interesting. There was a weird Invincible vibe for some strange reason when it started for me, but not really in the same way as you would think. So I don't know. I still need to check out the series, but maybe I will at some point. Next up, now we're getting into the anime corner.
All right, so FLCL, rather Fooly Cooly, is coming back to Adult Swim with 2 new seasons in the near future, and the series has shared some new details for how the project has been shaping up. So it recently made a major comeback to Adult Swim as the Toonami programming block brought the classic franchise back for 2 new seasons, Fooly Cooly Progressive and Fooly Cooly Alternative. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot in this article that I do not get, but it's coming back for 2 new seasons, so good for you, fans of Fooly Cooly.
That's good. Fooly Cooly is weird anyway, even if you watched the first one. I think you did watch the first one, didn't you?
I tried.
Yeah.
I don't know if I made it all the way through.
Wow, and that's only, what, 6 episodes, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if I made it. I might have. It's hard to remember. I'd have to check my list and see if I had crossed it off, but I don't think I did.
Yeah, I get it, like I said, because it's a weird one. It's a quite weird one, and I have seen the other 2, I think, on Crunchyroll, but I never did check them out. So, there we go. Tiger and Bunny Part 2. Tiger and Bunny 2 Part 2 apparently is confirmed confirms Netflix release date. See, it says here the official Twitter account for Tiger and Bunny revealed that fans can expect new episodes of the anime to arrive on October 7th on Netflix. So, yeah. I think I've watched a little bit of Tiger and Bunny, and it's an interesting premise, but I never really got into it. Or I said I would probably come back to it later. But next up. There's a kind of a My Hero-ish kind of quality to it, but this also started before My Hero. So, I don't know. Might be up as some folks' cup of tea. But next up.
Okay, Record of Ragnarok Season 2 trailer has been released. And, the second season is already confirmed to be hitting Netflix next year in 2023. So the new trailer was released during this year's Anime Expo. Okay, I have not watched this. I am not familiar with this anime.
Neither have I. I've heard some people talking about it, but I have not checked it out myself. Futo Pi or Futo PL. I'm not sure. Is that supposed to be an I or a? I guess that's a capital I. Hype's release with new trailer watch. So this is the animated Kamen Rider anime that is coming to, I believe, coming straight to Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. And apparently Toei is now celebrating the 50th anniversary of Kamen Rider, and is experimenting with whole new ways of bringing the franchise to life, which this is one of those ways. So, is there a release date for this? I thought we might have already had one before. We know it's going to be 12 episodes, and I don't see a date here. But I think it's supposedly coming sometime this year, if I'm not mistaken. Next up.
2 major Macross series are finally going to hit Blu-ray shelves in the United States for the first time in franchise history. So Big West and Nozomi Entertainment took the stage during Anime Expo to announce that they are now teaming up on official Blu-ray releases for Macross Frontier and Macross Delta. Let's see if there's a date. No date yet, but that's what the announcement is, that it's coming out soon.
Yeah, and that is not the only Macross stuff. In fact, I would go ahead and say now, which I'm gonna skip. I'm gonna skip over because of some strange reason I put this out of line. Right Stuff, Nozomi Entertainment to release Macross 7 on home video on North America for the first time. It's going to be the first 29 episodes, and the second set will include 30 through 49, and the Macross 7 Encore. It is coming at some point. I'm not seeing a date on this either, but I guess sometime. So worth noting, Anime Expo was this weekend. This past weekend, and a lot of this news is from there. In fact, there is some news that is in a lot of news actually that is in the in an article in the clickbait section. If you are curious to know some of that, because we weren't going to put all of it in here. But yeah, if you go back to that last one that I skipped over, the panty and stocking one.
Oh, wait, you want me to do that one?
Yeah.
Okay, Studio Trigger announced that its panel at Anime Expo on Saturday that is working on a new project for the Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt franchise. The staff at the panel showed a short video featuring an animated shot and text with the phrase "New Panty and Stocking." The videos featured the main characters each posing with both their middle fingers up. Okay.
So some might think that sounds kind of lewd. No, it's not that type of anime. And in fact, I know that there are some people out there that like it because I've heard of it before, but I've not checked it out myself. But it's not. I know for a fact that it's not that kind of anime. Next up, though, Mashal, Magic and Muscles conjures up an anime adaptation for 2023. It is in production now, according to Shueisha's weekly Shonen Jump. It says we don't have a specific date outside of 2023. Just know that it is coming. And I forgot what this thing about. I know I've heard about this before. Here we go. It's 114 chapters already. Let's see. Written and illustrated by Hajime Komodo. It's been, of course, serialized in Shonen Jump Weekly, Weekly Shonen Jump, and I feel like it's a mash. It's kind of a Harry Potter-ish plus, or a Harry Potter times. I don't want to say One Punch Man because that's not directly right, but you kind of get an idea there. In the description, I might be descriptioning kind of wrong, but I know I remember reading about this before, and there was an interesting premise behind it. Anyway, next up.
At Anime Expo, Viz Media shared the world premiere trailer of Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War, and new key art for the anime set to arrive in October 2022. As reported by Anime News Network, the trailer focuses on the Stern Ritter characters, and this new anime will be based on the Thousand Year Blood War arc of Tite Kubo's manga. Okay.
Yeah. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean Anime's second part has a new trailer out and reveals the release date for the premiere of part 2, which is September the 1st. So yeah, if you are jonesing for that next part of JoJo's, I won't do the singing, I promise. Then there you go. Next up.
Announced during Crunchyroll's Anime Expo 2022 industry panel, the popular webcomic Solo Leveling is officially receiving an anime adaptation. The series will premiere on Crunchyroll as it airs in 2023. No firm date yet.
So I'm kind of excited about this one because I know a friend of mine has been reading this and loves this one. And I've actually just started reading the manga myself because I heard so many people talking about it. It's basically about this dude. He's like a hunter. He goes into dungeons, but he's like the weakest one. Like even in the weakest dungeon, he seems to get hurt and almost dies sometimes. And it is about what happens to him without going any further of that. And like I said, I've been enjoying it so far, so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing this animated. From there, we go into the manga corner, but we don't have to make any transitions because we're still in the same place. Tokyo Pop reveals 4 manga licenses, return of Rising Stars of Manga contest. So at Anime Expo, Tokyo Pop had a panel, and I won't go through all of these titles that they have the licenses for because you can read them for yourself in the show notes. But there's some stuff if you like, BL and some slice of life stuff. Next up. I don't know if that one is BL, but it is.
All right, so we are transitioning over, right, to manga?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, so you did the Tokyo Pop one?
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. I'm trying to take a look at something old and trying to read it. Let's see. So Kodansha USA releases Desert Eagle, My Wonderful World, 3 more manga digitally in July. Okay. So announced at its panel at Anime Expo, 5 new manga titles are going to be released digitally this month by Kodansha USA. The titles include Ken Wakui's Desert Eagle, Mizuho Emoto's My Wonderful World, Kano Kashiwagi's My Maid, Miss Kushi, Shuji Takeya's Hella Chill Monsters, and Takeru Okutsu's My Tentative Name. Okay. The Desert Eagle is going to debut on July 5th, and I guess the other ones are going to come after.
Yeah, something like that. You get the depressing news. Yin announces new manga and omnibuy. So of course, Anime Expo. See, K-On! The complete omnibus collection is getting an omnibus. Hoshinoko, which is the story of a strange relationship between a female idol and a male gynecologist. Pandora 7, Doomsday with My Dog, The World After the Fall and the Villains Are Destined to Die, Tomb Raider King, and some other stuff are getting released. It looks like by the end of this year. Next up.
Alrighty, Yu-Gi-Oh! Creator Takahashi Kazuki dies at the age of 60. So, this did hit my social media feeds as well. He was found dead on Wednesday. He was only 60. Public broadcaster NHK reported that Takahashi's body was found in the sea about 300 meters off the coast of Nago in Okinawa province. It is reported that he was wearing snorkeling equipment at the time. So this seems very much an unfortunate accident.
Yeah. So, obviously most people would know him as the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't know if this is the last thing you wrote, but I know I've talked about this before. But he did a thing for Marvel called Secret Reverse. Matter of fact, it just came out. Agent 70 I was talking about this. I got the cover up right there. I still haven't read the whole thing yet, but it's basically Iron Man and Spider-Man at a science fair. Excuse me, at a convention, and some things going on. There is some card business that happens because it's the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh. There is some cards involved, I will say. So, it's a sad loss. That's because just the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh. A lot of people love that anime and the manga and the actual game. So it's a loss. Next up though, let's see. We're going into the comic book corner now.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
So DC actually released Harley Quinn season 3 prequel series, the Eat Bang Kill Tour, for free, and this is on DC Universe Infinite for those interested in checking this out. It says all 6 issues are currently free to read on said service. It says for all Infinite subscribers, so I assume if you just have a free account. But I think I know some of the stuff like this, they'll just put it out to where you don't even need an account for it and you just read it for free. I know they've done that for stuff in the past. And this is probably one of those cases. For how long, I'm not sure, because sometimes they tend to sweep that back up. So, but if you're interested, you can go check that out. Next up.
Black Adam DC Multiverse action figures are on sale now. If you are interested in picking up the figures, they're on sale now. You can pre-order them on Amazon or Entertainment Earth, and other toy outlets. You can get a whole bunch of these characters, from Black Adam to the Hawkman, the movie Hawkman, to Cyclone, to Dr. Fate, to Atom Smasher, to the bad guy Saadiq. So the bad guy, I think, is the Build-A-Figure. Oh no, it's a mega figure, so it's an extra sized character.
Saadiq just reminds me of that card game from Star Wars.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's why I was sitting here chuckling. I'm like, okay, sure. But yeah, and wait, hold on. Did I miss something? Oh, I put it in a different place. Never mind. DC reveals why Dark Crisis villain wanted to murder the Justice League. And we're talking about our old friend Pariah, the Crying Man.
Of course, the Crying Man. Oy, oy, oy.
Which it's I guess a kind of a spoiler for Dark Crisis #2, which came out this week, but I haven't read it, and I'm fairly certain Agent 70 has not. So kind of doesn't matter. Won't really go into it anyway. But yeah, I guess the reasons why he wanted to just slay out of the way are revealed. Next up.
DC's Flashpoint Beyond #3 ends with the tease of a new dangerously violent Robin. Okay, I did not read this.
Yeah, neither did I.
Flashpoint Beyond #3 is written by Jeff Johns, Jeremy Adams, and Tim Sheridan, with arts. I'm just not going to go through all of the credits. But throughout the series, Thomas Wayne, the Batman of the Flashpoint universe, has taken in Dexter Dent, Harvey and Gilda's son, after Harvey was killed and Gilda was sent to Arkham Asylum. So apparently this is the new, more violent Robin.
Sure. Can he be any worse than Jason Todd? Probably. I don't know. Who cares?
I mean, okay, Chandler Roddykat Bing.
So, good news if you like Smallville, I guess. Smallville's Clark Kent and Lex Luthor actors hosting a new rewatch podcast, which seemed to be a thing to do in certain places. I know this is not the first one of those, one of those that are around. I know the the dudes from Scrubs did theirs. Might be still doing theirs. I don't even know. But regardless, Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum, according to Variety, are going to host a Smallville rewatch podcast called Talkville from Cumulus Media. The new podcast will follow Welling and Rosenbaum as they, come on. They'll they'll watch the show, share behind the scenes information and anecdotes, which I don't know. I heard rumors they've been kind of teasing this and or something like this for a minute now, so not surprising. And Welling, I guess, just came back for that Arrowverse crossover, which probably wouldn't have anything to do with this, but nevertheless, doesn't help. It doesn't hurt. So yeah, when does this start? I think it starts soon, like sometimes it's July. Yeah, July 13th, with new episodes dropping each Wednesday on all the places that you mentioned. And it's also kind of funny that you mentioned Channel and Bean, because there's a news article on this page that has a picture of him, that has him on it. So that's kind of funny. Next up.
All right, next up. So a new piece from Sideshow from Diamond Select Toys Marvel Animated line. I apologize. So it is a Marvel Animated style She-Hulk statue. It is based specifically on Scotty Young's cover for 2014 She-Hulk #1. Credit goes to sculptor Casey Barnard for translating that image to 3D. The statue is priced at $49.99 and is limited to 3,000 pieces worldwide. Pre-orders have opened already. They've been open since Friday, June 24th, with an estimated release window of early 2023. So hopefully you can get one if you like what this looks like.
Yeah, I remember this cover, and I think I have it, actually. No, actually, I don't think I do have it. But I remember seeing this cover. But I feel like I remember seeing the She-Hulk somewhere else. Either way, it doesn't matter. The X-Men's most controversial resurrection has left them open for cosmic war. This is a spoiler for last week's X-Men Red, which I still haven't read at this point. But according to the permalink, has something to do with Xandra. Oh, wait, I don't remember this. See, again, I remember reading X-Men Red, but I don't remember this or the other thing that I forgot to mention to you last week happening. So, but basically, there was a resurrection that might cause a controversy, and may cause some stuff going down the line for
right.
our.
I was about to say I talked about it. It wasn't like finished, but it was definitely something that they had already set in motion.
Right. I don't know if that's a new story on that, but we'll put that there. Next up, though.
Marvel's X-Men 2099 return with a new Phoenix, Cyclops, and Northstar. So this is in Spider-Man 2099 Exodus #5 by writer Steve Orlando. So, so this is an upcoming issue of Spider-Man 2099 Exodus. I don't think this has come out yet.
I thought that issue had come out.
Number 5?
I thought so. Maybe I could be wrong. I feel like there was
the issue releases August 3rd.
Okay, I thought, but then there was one that just came out, so maybe that was 4.
Right,
then.
Right, okay. Exactly. That's why I questioned the issue number.
Right. I didn't know what the issue number was. I just remember seeing it in our box. So.
Mm-hmm. I just don't remember it going up to 5. That's just a pure guess on my part.
Gotcha. Black Panther's Shuri and Killmonger star in Marvel's new Wakanda series. So Wakanda is a new 5-issue limited series from Marvel Comics launching this fall, spinning out of John Ridley's ongoing Black Panther run. Wakanda will put a spotlight on different fan favorite Wakandan characters in each issue. Kicking things off in issue #1, which comes from writer Stephanie Williams and artist Paco Medina. In fact, I heard about this from Stephanie Williams, her Twitter rather, not from her particularly. But anyway, is a story spotlighting Shuri, T'Challa. Y'all know who Shuri is. Come on, this is one of those Age of 70 things. Like, you know who Kevin Feige is. You know who. At this point, you probably know who Shuri is. But if you don't know, that's Black Panther's sister.
I was about to say, this is not on the level of Kevin Feige, though.
In some respects, it is. But Well, I mean, if they've seen the movie, specifically,
right?
But regardless, anyway, Shuri proves that being without the Black Panther doesn't mean Wakanda is without heroes to protect it. I mean, this has also been proven before in the comics, but we're less upset on that. And there is a reason she too once wielded the power. There you go. Marvel said of this issue. So yeah, each issue will additionally contain a backup story written by Evan Narcisse and artist Nacha Bustos called History of the Black Panthers. The stories will provide fans a definitive look at all of the past Wakandans who have previously been the Black Panther prior to T'Challa for the very first time. So that's cool. First issue goes on sale October 12th, if I have not said that before. Next up.
On the last day of Pride Month, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power showrunner Nate Diana Stevenson shared an update on his gender journey with fans in the fitting form of a mini webcomic. In Stevens' comic shared via Twitter, the artist reintroduced himself to fans as Nate, a name which he stated he's been using privately with close friends for almost a year. While Stevenson now uses he/him pronouns, he discussed gender as a more complex spectrum of which he's been navigating. Okay.
Cool. Allow me to reintroduce myself.
I was thinking the same thing.
I know you were.
Same thing was running through my head.
Great. Let's see. Boom Studios announces 2 new editorial hires. Actually, I wish I had put this a little closer, but it's all right. It's coming up. Let's see. Who are these people? Chantel LaRock, that's funny, and John Moyson are both on the editorial staff as senior editor and acquisition editor consecutively. There you go. Next up.
Go-Go Power Rangers announced the new debut of a new Mystery Ranger. Boom Studios announces that July 13th, is next week's Power Rangers number 21 by writer Ryan Parrott, and artist Marco Renna will debut a new mysterious ranger. Okay.
Yeah, because they've never done any mystery rangers ever in the history of Power Rangers.
Right. Like, what color is this ranger going to be now, huh?
Puce.
Oh, my gosh. Chartreuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I want to catch up with this because I've heard some good things about the 2 books. But anyway, Keanu Reeves to headline BRZRKR panel in Hall H at Comic-Con 2022.
Excellent!
Very good. IGN has exclusively revealed that Reeves will be there and taking part in a panel devoted to his comic book series BRZRKR because his love for you is like BRZRKR. Dubbed Keanu Reeves' BRZRKR, the Immortal Saga continues. The panel will focus on the upcoming finale of the Boom Studios series and the future of the franchise as Netflix continues to develop a live-action film adaptation and anime series. I believe one of which we probably talked about before. I can't remember if the other one was. Based on that title, we wouldn't be surprised if a sequel to the comic is revealed during the panel, according to this article. The panel will be, if you're going or if you're just waiting for the time for the announcements afterwards, July 22nd at 3 to 4 p.m. So, joining Reeves will be Matt Kent, the co-writer, the movie screenwriter Mattson Tomlin, Matt Gagnon, Eric Halburn, and Stephen Christie. All of Boom. Next up.
All right, and some more sad news that I have to report this week. Wizard co-founder and former editor-in-chief Pat McCallum has passed away. DC Group editor Chris Conroy confirmed McCallum's passing on Twitter. McCallum himself worked at DC from 2011 to 2019. Wizard launched in 1991. Man, I remember when I was getting Wizard on a regular basis. I never subscribed, but I definitely picked it up from my comic shop, especially in college.
Oh, I used to thumb through it at every time I go to a bookstore, or the comic book store. So yeah, I also remember.
Yeah, so he was one of the him and Gareb Sheamus, I guess, And he served as editor-in-chief of Wizard before being let go in 2006 amid staffing changes at the company. Wizard ceased publication in 2011, being replaced by the online-only magazine Wizard World. So I remember, I mean, by the time we got to 2006, I had stopped reading Wizard for many years. But I remember getting it through, you know, past graduation, past law school, you know, like going into like maybe 2002.
Right.
You know, something like that, like 2002, maybe 2003. That's when I officially just like stopped getting Wizard. You know, there would be some issues I would just not pick up, but I definitely picked it up, you know, on a semi-regular basis up until about that point.
Right. Yeah. So sad loss. Again. Victor LaValle's Eve returns in Eve, Children of the Moon, which reminds me that's I think that last Sabretooth issue came out, who also by the same writer. This week. Anyway, says here that you will discover a brand new adventure from Hugo Award nominated author Victor LaValle in October 2022 when you read Eve, Children of the Moon. And then followed is a press release from Boom Studios about this with the creative team and the premise of said book. So you can check that out in the show notes. Next up.
All right, last but not least, we have a story here about a publication titled Judge Kim and the Kids Court. This is a children's lit book. It is the Treehouse Court is now in session in this first book in the Judge Kim and the Kids Court Level 3 ready-to-read graphic series about a young judge who presides over conflict of all sizes in her neighborhoods. Who appointed you judge? I mean, I'm just saying. Just saying, right? So the list price is $6.99, and you can order this now.
Agent 70's legal legal ties are
you know, I can just imagine people saying that. Who made you judge? Who elected you judge? Huh?
So
but anyway.
Yeah, so the reason why I put this in here is because, and I wish we actually had him on the show one time, but it's the part of the creative team is Joseph P. Illich, which is a noted editor for many places now with Heavy Metal, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. He's a Brooklynite. He's from around my way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But yeah, he's one of the writers on this book.
I was about to say I've met him, you know, just, you know, casually, you know, obviously not professionally or anything like, or not even as part of the podcast. I just sort of, you know, passed him by in a store, say what's up. I saw him at Comic. Actually, you know, I saw him at Heroes Con. Now that I think about it, and I was taking random pictures, and as he was signing the book, and I was taking a picture of him, and he just happened to look at me as I was taking the picture. I was like, "Whoop! The eagle-eyed editor strikes again." Right.
So, but I never actually went over and talked to him because he was running around. So, plus I wouldn't have known what to say to him at the time anyway. So, I don't know. Seems all right. Either way, though, this is kind of cool if you got some kids in your life and might be, or hell, all ages for, you know, who's to say you can't be a kid and not read this. And that, folks, is the end of our news. Can we get one more ad read?
Our last ad read of the night. You know what we read when it's late and we're tired. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
All right, folks, that is it for the show. We have no more movie protocol for the foreseeable future. But we do have Miss Marvel coming up. The last episode of Miss Marvel coming up next week. So, yeah. Because I guess movie protocol wouldn't be until Wakanda Forever?
Right, November.
Yeah. We got She-Hulk coming up, but that's a whole nother month away. So, and that's not even a movie. That's a Disney Plus. So anyway, we will be back next week on our normal time, Thursday nights, unless something happens. Hopefully, heaven forbid that does. But Thursday nights, 9:30 p.m.
Knock on wood.
I know, right? 9:30 p.m. And recording on YouTube.com/The Kliq Nation and Twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. We thank you for popping in if you do happen to pop in. But you can find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast. Wait, actually, let me back up. I have been Roddykat. Sorry, it's hot, folks. I'm just messing with me. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter, and you can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Although I could have just switched it up either way, it wouldn't matter. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites therein. I still haven't watched Umbrella Academy, but that's neither here nor there. Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris of this ish. You can find him at that. You can also find him at CBChron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also find him on The Kliq Nation on Twitter. That's VKLIQNATION. You can also find him at comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off. Actually unknowingly provided us with a couple of articles from this week's show. So definitely go check out those articles and check out this other stuff he's reading. He's writing, excuse me. Mm-hmm. You can, again, find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And since I've given the other particulars for our recordings, I don't need to do that again. This, folks, has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace, one. And here's a new outro.
Oh, not the more you know. Oh, nice. All right, folks. Bye.